Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. And we have got Levi coming and hanging out with us today. Levi, what is up, my man?
How's it going, Justin, man? Thanks for having me back on.
Shoot, yeah. So Levi was on episode 60, which if you haven't checked that episode out, definitely go check it out. We talked about, God, what all did we talk about, man? We talked about your journey. We talked about you launching electrical. And we talked about really how you were launching really HVAC and electrical. You kind of launched at the same time. Yep. And about how you leveraged your club memberships to really make that happen. Before we dive into what we want to talk about today, though, give us an update on that.
Yeah, so it was great. We're coming up to the 1 year mark on our HVAC division. And we're going to do, in our first year in HVAC, we're going to do just about 3.2 million.
Nice.
And so far electrical, we're on pace to do about 1.5 million our first year in electrical. But electrical is only 7 months old, and they're both just humming. We're getting into busy season now for both of them, coming up out of the shoulder season for HVAC. And so we're in growth mode again, where we're starting to interview a bunch of people. A lot of people coming in and out the door for interviews because we're hoping to add, 7 to 8 technicians over the summer.
Man, that's fantastic. That's so great. And I think it's just a reminder of how important memberships are. They are so important. And it is really, that's your raving fans. That's where they live. That's where they hang out. And whatever you decide to do, if it's generators or, I don't know, a ski resort lesson, whatever it is, those people are going to be excited to work with you guys. So,
yeah, memberships are huge.
So yeah,
like
Levi's
I said,
from High Five Plumbing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, we got it's glitching a little bit. I'll go back and edit that out.
Cool. I was just saying that memberships are massive, right? Because regardless if you only have one trade, regardless of what you offer in your business, it's very important to try to figure out how to offer a membership, right? And that's something you taught me when we first started working together back 2017. It's vital. It's so vital for the value of your company to have a membership base. And so we really did put a lot of focus in it ever since then. And so, I remember talking to you back in the day, and I was evaluating a company I was thinking about acquiring, and the first thing you told me to ask them was, well, how many club members do they have? And I was like, I don't think they have a club membership. And you're like, well, they don't have any real loyal people then, right? They don't have anybody who you can go lean on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of times, even if you have a club, well, depending on how you do it, it's also reoccurring revenue. But we could go down that rabbit hole,
right?
But we don't want to. I wanted you to come on here. I mean, I do. You know me. We can just rattle it off for the whole day. But the conversation I wanted you and I to have is around. There's a lot of shifts happening right now, and there's a lot of talks about the tariffs that are coming up, and there's coming out of shoulder season. Like there's so many things that are coming down the pipeline. But what I wanted to talk to Levi about was building your team for growth, because there's so much that goes into that. And I think that it's a lot of little things that turn into big things. And I really just wanted to kind of dive with you a little bit, because really you've had a journey of absolute amazing, sustainable growth. Like there's a lot of people that, they go, oh, I did $1 trillion in 5 minutes. Well, that's great. Is that sustainable? And I think what you and Cassie have done is been able to create something that is A, it's scalable because you've done it, and B, it's sustainable and it's continuing to flow. So let's dive into that a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about how do you prepare your team for growth?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I've been running High Five Plumbing since 2012, and you go to a lot of business conferences and a lot of things, right? And you meet some people and they're the same size every year, right? And but yet the words they're saying is that they want to get bigger, right? The way they're talking is that they want to get bigger, but yet they don't get bigger. And so I was very interested in that, right? It was really interesting to me to wonder how me and other people can be sitting in the same conferences getting the same information, and yet one is growing and one's not, right? And so I really started to kind of look back and see and there's just certain things that you have to set your team up for to be able to handle growth, right? To be able to understand that with growth is going to be a ton of change, right? And that's where a lot of businesses, I believe, struggle is they don't, they hide change. They shy away from change. They don't talk about change. So then when you do start to change stuff, a lot of the time your team feels like it's because something is going wrong.
Right.
And that's not always the case, right? You're changing to get better. You're not changing because something's wrong. You're just changing to get better. And so I think that that's a huge part of it, right? Is you got to be able to teach your team about change. But in order for your team to handle change, there's got to be some certain foundation things that are put in place in order for them to understand that the change isn't because of bad things, it's because of good things. So yeah, that's really what we did. We had our kind of foundation things that we worked on. We kind of have 3 foundation things that we really believe you have to have in place to be able to continue with growth. And so yeah, the first of those 3 things is vision, right? Like as a company, you have to have a vision, and you have to be able to create a vision for your team on how working for you and the changes you're implementing are only going to make their life better. Right. So vision is huge, right? High Five Plumbing does vision boards every year with us and our team, right? High Five Plumbing as a company makes a vision board, and then everybody personally makes a vision board. And it's not a dream board, right? There's a difference. There's a difference between a dream board and a vision board, right? A dream board is just cool shit that I want someday, right? But a vision board is things that you think you can hit in the next 1 to 3 years. And then you put steps with it, right? You put actual things that I can accomplish to get those visions to become a reality. And when you put that time and energy into your team, they know that like these changes that I'm making is only to help the vision for the business and for you to become truth, right? So vision is the first one. I think it's one of them ones that I believe a lot of the founders and owners of businesses may have vision, but they struggle with getting their team to understand that they need to have a vision as well.
Yeah. So as you're telling the story about the conferences, it made me remember as a kid, I had a pretty amazing coach, and my coach used to tell us, he would say, you should wish in one hand and poop in the other, and let me know which one fills up fastest. And I think that's, I don't know why that just came back to me, but it did. And here we are talking about poop and hands. but I think that, okay, so you and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and I asked you this question, and I want to ask it now because I think it's important and it ties back to what you just said. Is I said, Levi, with what all you've got going on and all the growth and knowing that you've gotten the same information that a lot of other people have, what do you feel like is your superpower?
Yep. And the answer was implementation.
Implementer, baby. Like,
yep.
You can take all the information out there. If you don't apply it, it's worthless. Yep. But I think that you're like just such a perfect example of somebody who takes the information and then applies it. And then from that, there's been massive growth from your business, which leads to massive growth in your personal life. Like there's so many good things to it. But I just wanted to tell that story because I think that that is your big superpower, is that you're not searching for a silver bullet. You're taking the information and you're implementing it. And I think that's a step that a lot of people miss. Now, one other thing I wanted to say as far as growth, and I want to dig into that a lot deeper when it comes to your team, but vision is like one of those things to me that is so near and dear to my heart. And I think and part of it's because I've seen how it's affected my life. And if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, if you don't do a vision board, I'm telling you, you are leaving money, you're leaving happiness, you're leaving all these things on the table. As silly as it sounds, put it on a board and watch what happens.
Yeah, and it creates clarity. Like that's there's been stuff I've put on my vision boards that I thought I wanted. And then halfway through the year, I realized like, well, maybe that isn't something because it's not bringing me joy. It's not taking me in the path I want. And that's why I love vision, because you can change your vision, right? It's not like you have to be upset with yourself because your vision changes. It's really just like a guidelines. It's a path, right? And that's the second thing that we focus on a lot is path, right? Like if you create a vision, you have to create the path, right, on how to make it become true, because a lot of people can vision and dream of the things they want, right? But if there's not a set path that's going to show them success and show them that this is possible, then vision is worthless, right? Like you gotta follow up vision with a path, a sustainable, obtainable path to success, right? And that's the second part of the foundation that we believe is the path, right? You have to show them the path, right? You can't just tell them there is one. You have to be able to show them by you creating your vision board as the leader of the company, and you checking your stuff off your vision board, right? That's showing them that, hey, no. See, like if you put this stuff down and you put the work in, it's possible. You can do it. And so you have to be able to show them the path.
Leading by example, I feel like, is not a term used as much as it used to be. But I think that's a perfect example of it, is lead by example. Right? Don't ask your people to do stuff that you wouldn't do. I think that should be really leadership 101, which, to be honest with you, is why I never had a 24/7 business, because I'm not going to somebody's house at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just not doing it. So I would never ask my people to do it, right? So I think it's a good example of leading by example. So if you want them to do something, you got to lead them. And think about the power, for those of you listening, think about the power of what Levi just said. So you have a vision board, and and this is not just, I remember when I did my first vision board, and it was all about like Lambos, like it was all this stuff.
Yep.
Right. And then as you get older and you start having kids, like your life shifts. And so so for Christmas this year, we did a vision board with the kids, and there was really no stuff. Like there was no stuff on it. It was all about feeling and experience and things we do together. And like you said earlier, you can take things off your board. I think what's important about that is that if you're looking at the vision board and you're like, I'm going to take this off, there's just that slight intentionality of, I really don't want that. So now I have to take it off the board. As minor as it is, you're like, well, I'm just going to take this off. Now you're like, okay, yeah, I'm okay with not doing that. Or, you know what, I really thought I wanted to do that thing, and I did it. Wasn't really my speed.
Yep.
Wasn't really my speed at all.
Yeah, one of the things that's crazy is, so for a lot of years on one of my vision boards was I wanted to coach youth sports, right? I wanted to be a coach and coach youth sports. Well, I coached youth sports for a couple of years, and that came off my vision board.
You're
I decided,
like, you know what? That's going to go ahead and come down.
That's going to go ahead and come off, because that's a hard job, right? That's a hard thing to do. And so there's some, like I said, your vision board is to help you find what you want, right? Like that's really it. And as long as you take the path, as long as you put the time and energy in to go down the path to hit that vision, then it just gives you clarity. It allows you to take the things off that you don't want to do in life and keep the things on that you do like doing and enjoying. And we talk about that as high level leaders a lot of the times, but a lot of the times we don't portray that to our team, right? And one of the reasons I found this is, if you go look at our vision boards of our team, there's probably 10 or 11 technicians that on their vision board have that they want to start a plumbing business or an electrical business or an HVAC business in the next 5 years.
Right.
And that can scare a lot of people, right? They get scared that I'm going to lose somebody, where what we do is we just say, sweet, if that's what you want, man, we'll help you get there. And then our goal is that hopefully within 5 years, by the time they're ready to start that business, that they decide that they don't want to leave high five because we've helped them get everything they've wanted. Right. So it's just a different mindset you got to have, right? You got to confidently show them the path and not be scared of the path that they have to go to accomplish what they want. Right. And I believe that's the thing. Like our team gets shocked because when we sit and talk about vision boards, and I tell guys like, hey, what's one of your visions? And they're like, oh, I want to start a plumbing company in 5 years. I straight up say, sweet, man, we'll make sure you pay attention while you're working here to how we operate, what we do. So then that way, when you do go to start, hopefully you have a leg up. You're not starting from behind like a lot of companies are. And so it does take a little different mindset shift from the leader of the company to confidently still support that person's path, even if the outcome may not be working for you in the future.
Yeah, I think, and you know, I've always embraced that with you know, techs and employees that want to open businesses, and I always encourage owners, you're doing it, so you can't be upset with somebody else because they want to start a business. You know, my rule has always been, you know, don't screw me on the deal, and I'll help you any way I can. And I can tell you in the area that I live, there's probably, I'm gonna say probably 10 companies that owners that have worked for me at some point. Some of them are still friends. We still communicate. Some of them not. And there's a lot of them that I help when I'm doing, if they need something, they call me, I help them. I'm happy to do it. I think it's great. I think if you have better competitors, your market just gets better. Everything levels up versus, people that are undercutting everything or.
Right. Well, and then the truth of the matter is if you show your team how to build a good vision,
Yep.
and then you help them create the path to get to that vision, then a lot of the times that's one of those things that comes off their vision board in the next 3-4 years, because now they're making great money. They're accomplishing all the things they want to accomplish and realize that maybe owning the business is not what I needed to do to accomplish these things, right? And so you'd be shocked how many times after 2-3 years of being at High Five that comes off the vision board because it was something that maybe they thought they wanted, but now they're getting all the things that they wanted in life without having to have that business. And so it's just about empowering people to go after what they want, right? Like, don't try to restrict them. Don't be afraid to now, train them because you're worried that they're going to go start another business. Like, you just got to still pour into them, right? And then that actually leads to the third thing that we have. So we have vision, right? We have path. And then the third thing is you have to support it, right? You have to support them, right? You can't just build a vision board and then tuck it in a corner and then not talk about it the rest of the year until next year when you build another one, right? It has to be a constant, continuous support, right? We pull our vision boards down every time we have EDMs, right? Employee development meetings every 2 weeks. Every time we have those, that vision board gets pulled off the wall and gets brought into the meeting with them, because we want to see where are we at with this? Like, where are we at with the things you want in life? Because you got to support them, right? So if you can help them create a vision, show them a path, and then show them that you're there to support, like you get a powerful team of people who are willing to go out and on the front lines and do the things that you have on your vision now to accomplish some of the things you want with your companies.
Yeah. I think all of those things are just now when you're helping and supporting them, as you're wanting to make changes to the business for the better and the growth, of course they're going to be behind it, right? So they're going, okay, well, it's not that they want me to do this thing just because. They're usually going to know the why. And not only are they going to know the why, they're going to actually see the results of it. I think that, if you're not, here's the deal. They have wishes, hopes, dreams. They have all those things. What you're doing is allowing them to let you be a part of that.
Yep.
If they want to have a plumbing company, they're going to be talking about it somewhere. And you would rather have the conversation with you versus it being just like side conversation, back of the lot conversations where it feels kind of icky. It's better just to let's have that conversation. I mean, listen, I can remember telling owners, or I can remember telling employees that wanted to be owners, listen, here are the things I feel like you need to work on to be more successful when you go out and do it on your own. And sometimes they're like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go do it myself. And some of those guys are still running around town as chucking the trucks and no growth and all that kind of other good stuff. So, but it's still that part of help them grow, let them.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like I said, how I told you, like, vision boards create clarity, right? And if you can create clarity, then you can help create a path, right? So, like, for example, we have a technician that on his vision board, he put that he wanted to be one of the top 3 technicians in the plumbing division. And then on the other side of his vision board, he put that he wanted to do $500,000 a year in sales. So, like, now in his meetings, you can sit down and say, well, this isn't going to line up, right? Because to be top 3, you're going to have to do more than 500,000. So it's not saying one's right or wrong. So which one is it? Do you want to hit 500,000? Because we can focus on that. Or do you want to be top 3? Either one, right? But it just creates clarity. And then he actually sat down and said, oh, I didn't think about that. Right. And then we ended up settling on like 750,000 in sales, which would put him in the top 10. Right. But now it just created, clarity for him. Right. He now realized, oh, dang, like even as I was making this vision board, I wasn't thinking about the steps that it would take to hit some of these things. And that's what's so powerful about this is it's now a talking point because they've put everything that they want out on paper. And now that's where, as a manager, as a leader, you can help them create the path to hit anything they have on that. And then it's just about supporting them, right? Every 2 weeks, pulling them in and talking to them and saying, hey, like, where are we at with this? You wanted to hit 750,000. Well, where's your conversion rate and your average ticket? Because how are you going to hit it if you don't maintain these? And it becomes a statistic conversation instead of an emotional one.
You're literally holding a mirror up to what they said they want to do. Like, it's a completely different level of leadership because here's the deal. The truth is, people don't care what your goals are. Like, as the owner, like if you're like, I want to do whatever, $50 million, they really and truly don't care. And it's not to say that people are selfish, although inherently that's kind of a thing, but it is kind of a what's in it for me situation. So how do you motivate and drive them? And now here's what I will say, and you can, well, I think you're going to agree with me, but if you don't, that's okay too. You're having different conversations with employees when you're saying, hey, you said you want to do this, top 3. You're not, what can I do to help you? What is it you need to do? Because it's easy to put a goal up and forget about the work that it takes to get there. Mm-hmm. Or the sacrifice, or if the guy wants to be top 3 and a call comes in on 7:00 at night, you're probably not having that go, well, you remember that? Or even if you do, you're like, remember that call? Remember that time you said you want to be top 3? This is one extra call. Like, it's just different conversations you're having with employees versus you didn't do your paperwork right. You didn't show up on time. Your uniform's not clean and neat. Like, you're not, like, that's not even conversations that you're having with employees. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Like, it makes it very much like, it goes back to a lot, right? Like, back when I worked with you and Kristen very closely as coaches, like, that's why I got so into systems, right? And having a system to follow, because if there's a system, it eliminates gray area. Right?
That's right. It's not subjective anymore.
Exactly. And it's not me getting on you. It's just, this is how we do it. And if you agree with how we do this, then this is how we need to get it done. And so vision boards are the same way for personal, right? For personal belief now. So they put it on the vision board of things they want. And so now when we sit down in our meetings with them, it's literally just are we on track to hit these things? And if we're not, do we need to either adjust the vision or do we need to adjust habits? Like, what is it that has to adjust? Because if the things on your vision board are still things that you're wanting, but yet your path and what you're doing is not putting you in the direction to get those, then it's either we got to either change the vision or change the habits, right? It's got to be one or the other, because it's going to be real hard to accomplish any of those if you don't align those. So yeah, that's why I said, that's why I think with us, you have to be able to have some success stories, right? If it's only me checking off the stuff on my vision board, then it's going to just look like I'm having the success, right? So you have to be able to help your team hit their success, right? We had a technician that last year, he wanted to buy a new Tesla on his vision board in January. And then in December, he sent me the receipt of his Carvana buying the exact Tesla he wanted. And so like, awesome. That's the stuff that's awesome, because it's like, yeah, it's a material thing. He wanted a car, but he put the time and energy, he put the thought, he built a plan on what he had to do in order to buy this car, and he got the car he wanted, right? And so, like I said, my vision board was the same thing. I remember my first vision board was in 2009, and it had watches and shoes and vehicles. But the truth be told, I ended up getting all of that stuff on that vision board. Yeah, like everything that was on that first vision board, and I very quickly realized that putting material stuff on your vision board is cool. It helps you check off that you did stuff, but it's not really growth, right? It's not really. And like you said, as I've gotten older, more faith, right? Having more faith in my religion and what I'm doing, that's on my vision board. Reading more books, like that's on my vision board, right? Working out, losing weight, right? Volunteering more, like that's now what's on my vision board, right? It's not all the cars and stuff like it used to be, but you got to grow to that, right? Like you can't tell somebody, oh, well, you can't put a bunch of material things on your vision board
Right.
because that's like, no. You just coach them through it, help them hit the things they want, and then they'll grow. They'll grow with the company, right? That's why you're building your team for growth, because you want them to see that by growing and by changing their lives is only going to improve their day-to-day if they do that.
Well, and I want to say this too. There's nothing wrong with material things. So if you're like, well, I'm going to do a vision board now, and you're being weird about cutting out a car you want, please don't do that.
Right.
Do the exercise, right? I just think that's, Levi, we're getting old. We're getting old. I don't know that I would say wise. Maybe it's wise. I don't know. But I don't want to discourage anybody from that, because there's nothing wrong with it. If that's what you want, go get it.
Yep.
Go after it. Whatever you need to drive and motivate you to succeed and to grow. Fine. I mean, as long as it's, legal, ethical, all
Right.
those things. But no, I think that's great. And again, I want to, gosh, man, the conversations. I tell people so often, when you're doing really your EDMs, your one-to-ones on a regular basis, and you're giving them goals and you have systems, man, the conversation you're having with your team completely shifts. Like for me, you'd always think, you go, oh man, I don't want to have to yell at this guy again. What? No, you're like, here's your numbers. How'd you do? Like, it's a scoreboard. No team gets done with the game and looks up at the scoreboard, and it's not subjective. They're not like, well, I feel like we won. I don't care what you feel like. You lost. It gets right there. It's not even a question. It's not even a question.
Yeah, once again, and it does that. Once again, it takes the gray area out, right? It takes that. It takes that. Am I successful? Am I not successful? Like, that's one of the first questions we ask people when they're building their vision board. Is like, what is success to you? Like, because my definition of success is going to be different than yours,
Right.
and from his and hers, right? And so, like, if you try to hold my standard for success, then you may be disappointed.
Right.
Right. That's why you have to create your own standard for success. What is success for you? And what do we need to do to make you successful in your life? Not what I want you to happen for you. What do you want in your life? And it takes a little bit of a different mindset. Like I said, you can't, you have to not be scared of that person walking out the door in 2 months because they want to go start their own business because they think they're ready. Right? Like that can happen. We've had that happen where we get a guy who builds a vision board, and he has a good solid 6 months of hitting his KPIs and doing the things he wants. And then he goes and starts a business. Right. And it happens. Yep. But the truth is that's why
it's going to happen. Like, he's either going to leave and go to a competitor, or he's going to be a competitor. Like, either way, if they're not fulfilled there, not that that's a bad thing, but if they're not fulfilled, they're going to go somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And so it now also creates clarity. Right now, as even a leader, I'm aware now of what this person wants. Right. So now I can be aware of, okay, this person wants to start a business. So there is a possibility that this person leaves us in the next year, 2, 3 years. It could happen. My goal is to just make sure that they can say that the 3 years, 2 years, the time that they spent with us, they chalk it up as a success.
Good for you.
Right? Like, that's the key. And having that type of mentality has made it for us to be able to grow and add team members, right? We grew by 78% last year by adding both of those two trades. We doubled the amount of people that we had employed from July to the end of the year. And that's hard to do if you don't have that change mindset that things are going to change, things are going to keep happening, right? We put on our vision board in January of last year that we wanted to add HVAC and electrical. So it was well known to the entire team that, like,
right,
we're going to be adding this, right? And that means we're going to be bringing on more call center, more dispatch, more warehouse, more accounting. Like, we're going to be bringing on a lot of different people, because in order to bring on these two divisions, it's going to be needed. And so now when people see you coming through and interviewing 7, 8 call takers and 7, 8 warehouse people, they're not worried that they're going to lose their job. They just know that this was part of the plan, right? Because that's what I see a lot of the times is people are scared to interview because I don't want that person to think that they're going to lose their job. And you just got to paint the picture that in order to do what we want to do as a business, this is what we have to do. And that's why having a business vision is just as important as helping your team set their vision, because if you help the team set their vision, but there's no vision for where your business is going, you're contradicting yourself, right? Like
Right.
you can't tell them to have a vision, but yet your company doesn't have a vision.
Well, and now, and what happens is now you have a culture where when they see these people coming in to interview, hopefully now that they're staying on the team, they see opportunity for themselves. That's not to say everybody wants to grow, but if somebody wants to grow and they're a technician and they want to be a service manager or whatever, as you grow, so do the opportunities in the company. I mean, there's more opportunities in larger companies than in smaller companies. So
Yeah.
I think all that's
Yeah, it's
such
crazy.
a
Like
great-
actually, a cool story. One of we've had a technician that's been with us for a couple years, and he had on his vision board he wanted to be a manager, right? And he just kept going and working and working and working, and then eventually we got to the size to where we needed a plumbing install manager, right? We needed somebody who could manage our install team of our plumbers. Well, he was the perfect candidate, right? He was the most efficient installer we ever had. He was always hitting his billable hour efficiency. He was always hitting numbers, a low recall rate. And now, because it was a vision he wanted, it made it to where he worked to get that position. And now he's our plumbing install manager, right? And so he is able to go check that off of his vision board that he wanted to be a manager in the trades. And so once again, it's just about that. It's about you're going to find the people that do want to grow. And then when you find out that, hey, this guy wants to become a manager, you can start to see if he has the traits that you are going to require to be a manager, because now you can start to hold him accountable in your bi-weekly meetings. Once again, I'm not saying you have to have individual meetings, right? That is quite a commitment. To do a meeting every 2 weeks with your employees, you have to be committed. And that's what we say with our, if you're not going to be committed to doing it every 2 weeks, then schedule it once a month to start. Like don't,
Yeah, but just do it. Yeah.
Because if you overcommit and then you keep rescheduling those meetings, it completely just destroys the entire process of doing it. If you just keep rescheduling those employee meetings, right? And so we're very much adamant about, like, don't put it on the schedule if you're not going to be sitting down with that person and actually going through that meeting. Because if you reschedule, if you move them, if it's not something that's like can't be missed, it's set in the schedule, then it does the opposite. They start to think that maybe this vision thing and getting support and the path that they're creating is not truthful, right?
Man, that's good stuff. So for everybody listening, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Levi is going to be hanging out with us at the Power Profit Workshop, powerprofitworkshop.com. And a lot of these are the conversations that we're going to be having during this workshop. And this is not going to be I don't know, how do you say it? A talking at you kind of event. This is going to be let's roll up our sleeves. Let's talk about how to create vision for your business. Let's talk about how to get your team members on board. I mean, again, there's a huge shift that happens in your team when you go from, hey, Billy, you're late once again. Hey, Billy, you're not in uniform once again, to the guy who's like, here's my vision. I want to be in a leadership role. And now he's in a leadership role. He's not leaving for $1.
Right.
He's not willing to do things like, and that's part of the problem too, as owners. A lot of times we allow people to do things that's crazy. Like, I talk to owners a lot and they're like, yeah, I can't get my guys to clock in. I'm like, stop paying them. Like, problem solved. Because guess what will happen? They'll start clocking in. Right. So it's just different conversations that you're having with your team. And a lot of this workshop is going to be around that. And again, I want to kind of recap, because I think there was just such good stuff we talked about today. But from a building your team prepped for growth, right? The three things: vision, path, and support.
Yep.
So in the show notes, we'll have some information about the event. We really hope to see you there. But as we wrap up, any closing thoughts on what we've talked about so far today?
Yeah, no, the biggest thing is don't feel like you're behind the 8 ball or like you're not doing good things if you don't have a vision, right? Like, it's just know that it's something you have to put thought into, right? Like if you can't put thought into how your business is going to look 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road, then it's going to be really hard to gauge your scoreboard, like we talked about, right? That vision is your scoreboard. So if you don't put a vision up of where you want to be in a year from now, then when that year comes, how are you going to gauge if you actually advanced or went backwards, or if you're just staying stagnant, right? And it doesn't matter either way what you're doing, but you need to have that vision so you can gauge, right? And so if you're cool with just kind of where you're at, how your business is operating, what your business is doing, then just keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to grow, you want to get to where you're not the guy doing all the work, where you have systems and procedures in place, where you feel like you can go take a breath and not feel like the business is going to crumble, then vision is the start of it, right? You got to start with vision. So yeah, just don't feel overwhelmed, or don't feel like you're not successful, or you can't get there. It's just a matter of knowing that you got to put the thought into what you want in your life, in your personal life, and in your professional life.
Well, as the saying goes, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. So
Exactly.
I don't think vision is a natural, us as business owners is not natural. I know when I first started writing my first one, I was so wrapped in the day to day, I couldn't even tell you what I wanted tomorrow to look like. So it is a learned trait. It is not something that most of us inherently are just born and we're like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about my vision and let me paint you this picture. Like, most of us don't have that ability. So, go easy on yourself if you're having a hard time with that, and just know that this workshop, that's what this is designed for, is going to be to move the needle when it comes to that. And then once you've moved the needle, how do you get your team to be ready to get to the next level? So, Levi, amazing having you on yet again. We're going to have you on a lot more, man. So I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see, but he's got a whole new cool studio and it's set up, and it's pretty awesome. So he'll be joining us a lot more here in the future. So again, thank you for coming and hanging out. And for everybody listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, thanks for checking it out. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and it will make sure to send you a notice anytime we got stuff coming up. But we hope to see you at the Power Profit Workshop coming up in May. Thanks, guys.
Cool,
man.